My name's Jeffrey St Laurent. Welcome to the Tuesday Call. Always excited to be here. Get to connect with some different people and just hear a little bit about yourselves, and also share some great education. I'm a firm believer in what I call education-based marketing. I heard that term a while ago when I was growing up in my business, so to speak, and just been a big advocate of it, especially with what we do as coaches. And that comes into what we're talking about today is, how to earn income as a coach. And a big piece of that is, our marketing and how we sell ourselves, and build an audience. And that's that education-based marketing. And that's where we share just some valuable education, and it shares our energy, and it attracts people, and they become a part of our audience. So that's what we do here on the Tuesday calls. Just so we're aware, all of the calls are recorded. I usually post them by the end of the week on Friday in my Selling Coaching University. So my website, if you haven't checked it out yet, sellingcoaching.com. And then, of course, like I said, under the university, that's where not only the Tuesday calls get posted, and for a lot of you, I would highly recommend, if you haven't been there in a little bit, go check that out. You can, under the categories, you can click Tuesday calls. And I've got some really detailed calls in there. And instead of just listening to stuff, just, peruse through them all and find one that's relevant to you right now and listen to that. And, I give a lot of great information on them. So find the ones that are relevant for you. In addition to the Tuesday calls, I've got, probably got right now like 80 plus videos in there, short, sweet videos, maybe 1 to 3 minutes, sharing some other, great quick content as well. And then if you haven't already, for those of you that aren't in my private Facebook group, right on my website, sellingcoaching.com, right at the top or throughout the site, you'll see basically a link to join that or to head over to there. You can check that out. A lot of great interaction going on there. We've got an ongoing visibility challenge where I'm challenging people to create videos. Again, just another great way of marketing ourselves, as I was talking before we started the call. With that being said, I am also available for one-on-one mentoring. So if that's something where you're at, where you're, oh God, I really want to do this thing full time, because what I do is I help coaches transition to a full-time business. That's my thing. And I focus on the aspects of marketing and selling, because after doing it since 2004, the biggest thing for me is I know that that's the thing that has allowed me that continued success, is understanding how to market myself, how to sell, but in a just a friendly and fun way. So with that being said, we're gonna talk about how to earn income as a coach today, and I want to keep it real in terms of the realities of it with what I'm talking about. One of the people I was talking about before we started the recording, he was saying like, yeah, I went through a coaching school, and they make it sound a lot easier to get clients, right? And it's like, yeah, it always sounds easy to do things when someone's talking about it, and a lot of the marketing that you see, as we're all bombarded with, especially as coaches, we're all bombarded with, hey, grow your list and get clients, and there's all these gurus and experts and coaches who want to help coaches, and so what I want to bring to the table is, yeah, I want to help you with specifics, but I also want to give you the realities of it. And it's not a bleak situation either. It's a great situation, but just you want to come at it on the right standpoint, especially if you're really looking to do this full time. You want to have the right expectations, and I've always been a big advocate of, if you can educate your expectations, you're less likely to be disappointed. And that's a lot of what I teach is giving you the detail, from my experience, so that you'll be less disappointed. And the less disappointed you are, the more apt it will take you out of the game. It won't take you out of the game as frequently or as hard. And that's the biggest thing, because we require consistency in this business, in any business, but especially in this business, and having that discipline, from working from home, especially if you're working from home and you don't have a lot of interaction with people, and especially in a face-to-face situation. So let's talk about this a little bit more. So when we talk about earning income as a coach, you can't earn income, or it's really hard to earn income, I will say it like that, if you don't have an audience, right? You need an audience. So wherever you're starting off, I don't care how long you've been doing it for, or short a time you've been doing it for, you need fans, right? If I'm going to throw a big concert and I have no fans, I'm going to show up and virtually no one's going to be there because I have no fans. So think about it like that. If you're going to throw a big concert, who's going to come to this concert? And yeah, you got some friends and some family, but in this case, it doesn't mean we don't want friends and family as our audience. And typically that's how you start off, is getting people that at least so your message is in front of somebody, and in the hopes that at least you get some support and feedback, and then maybe some referrals from there. But initially, we want to think about, we've got to be able to attract that audience. So you have to realize, I work with a lot of coaches, like I said, with my one-on-one mentor coaching. And some people, when I start off with, they've got all these ideas for products. And I'm like, that's fantastic. You can have these products, but who do you have to sell to these products? Who are your potential customers? And I'm like, well, who's on your list? Who's in your group? Who's in your whatever that you're in front of on a daily basis? And they're like, well, no one. I'm like, okay, well, so it doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter if you have the greatest product in the world. If you have no one to sell it to, then you don't have a business. One of the things you really want to realize as a coach, your business is your audience, period. That's it. In any business, no matter what the business is, their business is their audience. So if you have a large following and you develop that over time, what's going to happen is you can monetize that down the road however you want. But initially, you've got to start to build and attract that audience. So quite simply, from a starting off standpoint today, if you're going to earn income as a coach, and I always say this, your number one priority now and always is to build your audience, right? So that's a big thing. And I do have some other calls, like I said, check out in my Selling Coaching University some of the specific things on building an audience. Some of the calls that I've got recorded on building an audience. But in a nutshell, it's doing live events. And if you follow me enough and you're a student of my teachings, you're going to hear some really good repetition throughout some of the calls and some of the things that I teach. And I do that on purpose, but also it's how all of the pieces blend together when you hear that repetition. And the repetition as a coach is like, if we're talking on the phone and I'm one-on-one mentoring you, once we figure out some logistics in terms of your audience and what is your message and what do you want to teach, if we can get down to that niche, so to speak. I like to say that one message for one audience. But, once we find that, if we're able to get down to that spot, or if we can't get there quite, it's taken a little bit too long or whatever, one of the first things I'm going to tell you to do is like, okay, well, who can you get in front of? Who can you speak in front of? Who's your audience? That's where I want you to go. I want you to start getting in front of people, and I want you to start speaking in front of people. And I don't really care what it is right away, even if you don't quite narrow down, you don't know what your message is yet. You want to start educating people. Last week on the Tuesday call, I had a couple of my mentoring clients. I gave them 10 minutes of time, just to say, hey, get out there and speak. I wanted to give them a little platform, to get out there. And it was really cool to hear, what they came up with. I didn't give them any guidelines. I said, hey, just take 10 minutes and go for it. And the people that are on the call, they gave some feedback afterwards, and it was really cool what they heard. And so a lot of times as coaches, we're starting off and it's like, oh, I don't know what I have to say, and is it valuable, or is anyone going to care or even listen? But the biggest thing I'd say is, especially if you're feeling that way, is you can try and coach yourself through it. You can try and work yourself through it. But at the end of the day, you've got to book the event. And even if you have no idea what you're going to talk about, that stimulus is going to allow you to figure it out. Because trust me, you're not going to figure it out until you have that stimulus at that event, because there's going to be too many things that keep coming up where you're just like, oh, and it's one excuse after another, and then a month goes by, 2 months goes by, and you haven't done the event yet. So you got to get in front of people. You're not going to earn income as a coach unless you're speaking in front of people. How I've made it as an entrepreneur, as a full-time coach since 2004, and there's been fantastically abundant times, and there's been fantastically stressful times, I'm talking financially, as an entrepreneur. Due to cycles, economy, what I'm going through in my life, and how it affects my business. I mean, it's been a ride, And the thing about it is, what's gotten me through it, what's gotten me through the anxiety at night when I'm in bed, and I think about, oh my God, I'm like, where's my next paycheck coming from? Where's my next, my mortgage is due, or there's been times where I'm just like, oh my God, where's it coming from? And I don't have a lead that I would consider. I've got nothing set up. And it gets stressful at times. You've got to prepare yourself for those moments. I did a call a little while ago on creating a financial plan to quit your job and become a full-time coach. Again, one of the Tuesday recorded calls. And one of the things I talk about there is that financial tolerance and creating financial buffers. And however you're doing that with lines of credit or savings or anything that you have, just so you can rest a little easier, because as an entrepreneur, your income is not consistent. You're not getting a paycheck every 2 weeks or whatever it is for the same amount. It varies. So you've got to be able to weather that. But my point of this all is the one thing that's gotten me through it is knowing, and there's one thing in knowing logically and knowing emotionally. Knowing logically means I've heard it before and I believe it to be true, but I haven't experienced it yet. Knowing emotionally means I know it because I've done it repeatedly and it's worked for me. And so what's going to allow you to really create income as a coach and go towards this transition to a full-time is knowing emotionally from experience that if you speak in front of people, you will get clients and you will get paid. So there's one thing I always go back upon, and it's why I do these Tuesday calls. There's many reasons why I do these calls, but right now I'm 100% virtual business, meaning I never leave my house. So, I've got to get out there and speak to people. And since I did live events for 10 years, and now I'm doing all 100% virtual. So I'm doing both models, and I know that if I'm speaking in front of people, I'm going to get clients. And I don't care if it's one person or 100 people or more. You got to do that, because when you're in front of people and you hone that skill set and you share your message, people are going to benefit. That's the way they're going to find value in you. You have to realize is that as a coach, people are buying you. They're buying your value. They can't buy coaching. You can't sell coaching, even though that's the whole name of my business is selling coaching. I want to focus on the selling aspect. You're not. The product of coaching is such an intangible thing. So earning income as a coach is you sharing your message in front of people and speaking. It's the way what you bring to the table. It's your energy. It's your passion. It's your perspective. It's your experience. And it's people being able to hear that and being able to understand. Here's where really they start to buy into you. What builds value for you is that they begin to look at you and they hear you and they go, wow, this person understands me. This person knows what I'm going through. This person is empathetic to that. This person can help me. There's something, and all of you have gone through it and with some person in your life is you've met this person or have heard this person over time, and there was something about that person that you knew they could help you with something. And I don't know if it was just even something like a home project. Someone's talking about something like, oh, this person could help me figure this out. This person could help me, find a way to get this done. Whatever it is, I'm talking simple terms all the way to, life help. There's something about who that person is or what they're talking about that makes you realize that. And that's what happens when you're in front of people. And that's what I'm trying to bring an awareness for you to today is, how to earn income as a coach. Like I'm saying, getting in front of people. But that's the one thing I've always gone back to, no matter how stressed I've been financially or wherever I'm at in my business, is that I know when I do that consistently, I'm going to get paid. One of my mentoring clients, I was working with him and he's like, yeah, I really want to try and get, 5 clients in the next month. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, if you want to get 5 clients in the next month, you've got to speak to at least 100 people. You've got to get in front of at least 100 people in order to get those 5 clients. He's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, if I've spoken so many times before that, statistically I know that if I have an audience of about 100 people and I get to speak to them for 60 to 90 minutes or whatever, out of that, typically, I will get 5 or so coaching clients out of that. I've gotten more and I've gotten less. But on average, that's pretty much where I've got, like, let's say about 5%, if you want some more statistics. So I said, I'm like, you know what? You could speak in front of 5 people and get your 5 clients. I'm not saying that can't happen. I'm just saying, from doing it enough, get in front of 100 people. And I'm like, if it's one person at a time, great. If it's 10 people at a time, great. It doesn't matter. Do that. And that's going to get you on your path to creating some income. A lot of what we have to realize is, we talk about building that audience. A lot of what we want to think about in the beginning of our business is, as we don't have an audience and we start to build that, and I'm a big advocate of this, is before you start creating products to sell, like books or ebooks or any other type of medium programs, your biggest thing that you're going to start selling is coaching, right? Your coaching packages, working with you one-on-one. You can certainly do groups, but obviously groups require more people. And so you can do some smaller based programs with 2 or 3 people in it, which is fine. But so small group coaching and one-on-one coaching is going to be pretty much where you're earning your income from as a coach. And that's going to be through getting in front of those people. So, to kind of recap that for right now is that, to build that audience and to start getting paid, it's finding those speaking engagements and getting in front of those people and starting to share that message. I'm not going to go too much into detail right now about how do we set all that stuff up. That's another whole call. But biggest thing right now is if you're sitting in your office every day, one of the first things you should be thinking of in terms of activities would be, where can I speak? Where can I speak this week, next week? And in some realities on events, you do not need months or years to prepare for an event. Even if you've never spoken before, you might be scared out of your mind. But literally, here's 2 situations I'll give you. Number 1, if you have somebody that you know that is willing to put you in front of some people, meaning, let's say everyone knows a realtor, right? Everyone has to know a realtor at this point in their life. If not, you can find one pretty easily. But if you know a realtor, and if you don't, just ask a friend, who's your realtor? Can you introduce me to them? Boom, you're in front of a realtor. I'm just trying to, something simple that everyone knows. So let's say you talk to a realtor and say, hey, listen, I have a seminar and coaching company, and I'm super excited. I've just launched my business, or I've been launching my business, and I'm doing some speaking engagements. And let's just say you're general. I'm speaking in terms of personal development and mindset, and achieving goals. Let's talk. Say you're very general right now. And I was curious if your group of realtors met at some type of a weekly meeting where someone would be open to having me come in for even like 15 minutes to speak in front of them, just on mindset or development or things like that. Power of choice. I'm just talking general stuff. See what they say. I can't tell you how many realtors I've spoken in front of and what that's turned into, and clients I've gotten out of that when I was starting off doing this stuff. So if you're doing that, and so let's say this person goes, yeah, I'll talk to my manager, or I am the manager, and you know what? I'd love to have you in for a lunchtime thing. We have a weekly meeting. Why don't you come in, and then at the end you can talk for 15 minutes. Great. What would you like to talk about? What do you think is important? What would they like to hear? What are they struggling with? Things like that. So now you get 15 minutes, right? So if you're doing that, that could happen within a week. All right, I'm trying to give you time frames here, realities. So if I talk to a realtor friend and he or she was open to it, when would the next meeting be that'd be available? If it was available this week or even next week, we could set that up, because all I got to do is show up and the audience is there, and all my prep work is basically just figuring out what I'm going to talk about in those 15 minutes. All right? If you're setting up your own event, meaning you've got to invite people, you need at least a week, at the most 2 weeks. And the reason I say that is, you might think, oh my God, why so short of a time? Is because at the end of the day, if you book an event a month from now, and you start promoting it now, unless the topic is so fantastically engaging for this person where they just know that, oh my God, I have to go to this event, that they'll register then. But that's very rare unless people are in your audience already and they know you and they love you and the topic's really relevant for them. But if you don't have an audience, odds are, in terms of marketing it, people aren't going to decide until typically the week of, if not a day to 2 or 3 days before the event. Because people don't know what they're doing 2 weeks from now or a month from now, especially around this time of year as summer's starting to come for most people. So the point being is that if you did an event next week, and you started promoting it now, even if you have no idea what you're going to talk about, as long as you have a topic and you have, just a couple, 2 or 3 lines after it, even if it was general, and start with friends and family and start, moving along from there, get 5 to 10 people in the room, you could do it in a week from now, because that's when people decide. Any other time, it's not giving you any more time to do anything. And you think you need more time to prepare, especially if you've never done it before, but you don't, because you're just going to be procrastinating for those extra weeks. I guarantee it. You're just going to be procrastinating, and at the end of the day, it's only going to be a week's time frame or so where you're actually, stressing out and actually getting the work done in preparation and inviting to the event. That's the reality of it. So just another quick tip in terms of, how do we earn income and everything I just said. Book that event with some quick details around that. Let me just go into a couple of the things about this, and then we'll get some time to open up the call and talk a little bit about this. But one of the things you want to think about in terms of, when we create income, is you want to really identify the type of business model that you want. And this is the stuff that, when I work with people one-on-one or in groups, I really dive into with people, because this is something you have to consider, what is the lifestyle I want to create with my business? And I'm just going to, go a little general on this so you can get an idea of it. But, in other words, do you want to travel? Do you want to be out? Do you want to be interacting face-to-face with people? Or, do you prefer to be, at home, more virtual? Because really there's a virtual business where you can do things 100%. Like right now, like I said, I'm 100% virtual. I do everything from my computer, whether it's on the phone or on the internet, or that's where I'm at. And today's now day and age, you can do that because of social media, and you can also get personal. You can really start to get to know people, especially through the format of videos. That's why I'm a big promoter of video, and also between video groups, Skype, things like that, Zoom, all video based. It's like people are right there, and you really get to know them. So you can be very successful with that virtual world. But then also there's that face-to-face live events type thing. And like I said, I did that for 10 years in my business, which is a very viable thing. But I want you to look at your lifestyle. So I'm not going to go into the story, but I'll share that transition, meaning I did it for a long time, live events, and they're fantastic. But as my son's getting older, he's 10 years old now, and I'm realizing, God, he's growing up way too fast. I don't want to travel. I don't want to be away from him. Even a weekend or a day where I get to spend some good time with him is too much for me right now, because a day is too much for me to lose, because I realize in 8 years he's off to college or whatever he ends up doing, and he's into girls and other things besides his dad. So I don't want to miss that. So that's why I transitioned to that 100% virtual space. And also I had a very strong niche, so I can do that much better online. So you want to think about, your lifestyle in terms of, your children, your family, and the reality of live events is you're going to have more time away and out of the house, because you've got to be speaking, right? You've got to be in front of people. That's the name of this game. It's being in front of people, sharing education-based marketing, like I said, sharing great content, sharing ideas, sharing thoughts, so people get to know you, like you, earn your trust. And when the timing is right, that's what selling is, timing and a need. When someone has a need and the timing is right, that's when someone buys with anything. And that's why we're consistently in front of those people. And so if you're able to do that, that's fantastic. But if you don't want to be away from your children, your spouse, your whatever, then more of a virtual model is more advisable for you. So just a couple quick thoughts on this. If you're 100% virtual, I would say it's even more imperative that you have a stronger niche, meaning what's that one message for that one audience? Because you've got to really know where to find those people online. What groups are they in? If we're talking Facebook terms, what books do they buy? What forums are they in? What social platforms do they migrate to based on age and interest, etc. It's so if you don't know, or how about this? The less you know about that stuff, it's going to be not impossible, but a lot more challenging to stand out, because you blend in, because you're just that person who's, hey, I help people achieve their dreams. I help people get unstuck and move forward in their lives. And while it's valuable, we have to understand, what's going to allow you to stand out amongst just everything that everyone gets bombarded with. And sometimes you can be unique enough. I have this one client I've worked with, and he's in our selling coaching group as well, Robert, and he's a chauffeur. He's over in the UK. And we worked for a little while, and we could not get around. He was just this personal development dude, and he just loved personal development. And I'm like, well, you can niche and become the chauffeur coach. You could become the chauffeur of personal development. And so now you can take the personal development message, but you can be in your suit and tie. You can be in your limo, and you could be driving around, and you could be giving your message while you're in that medium, because that's pretty much what you do all the time. And you can give your your analogies and your metaphors about from the car, about your car with your clients, and that can now shape your brand and your message so that it's unique enough, even though it's still maybe just as general as the next person in terms of personal development wise. So if you are going to do that virtual model, I would advise a lot more on that, being a lot more specific. It's just going to help you, because how you're going to get and build more of your audience is you don't have to do paid marketing, but like for instance, like Facebook ads, that stuff's very valuable, but it's really not going to be worth your money unless you've narrowed your niche down very, very well. So for instance, my message, my niche is I help coaches transition to a full-time business, right? A lot of coaches are out there to help people grow their business or get clients and things like that. It's like, well, yeah, of course I do that stuff, but I'm like, my thing is I want to help you transition to full-time. So I might talk about some of those things, but that's a very specific thing. And I even get more specific and I say, hey, I'm the selling and marketing guy, and especially on the selling aspects. So many coaches are scared of that, but I want to make selling simple and fun. So that's where I kind of, separate myself from, let's say, for all the other gurus. But then it's much easier for me to find my coaches, because then I go, well, where are these coaches? What groups are they in? What forums are they in? What books do they buy? And I want to connect with and be in front of those people. So it's very easy for me to find my ideal client. And the easier it is for you, it's just going to make your job easier, and it's also going to tighten up your message. And when we talk about how to earn income as a coach, the tighter your message is, the more valuable it is to someone, because you're speaking specifically to them. I can speak to all of you specifically on the call today because you're all coaches in some form or another, whether wanting to become one or been one. Whatever stage you're at, you all have the same goals in mind, as you're passionate about coaching, and you want to figure this thing out so you can do it full time. And whatever your motivation is behind that, whether it's unique to you or not, we're all bonded by that same goal. So I can talk a lot more specifically to each one of you, versus if I had network marketers on the call, coaches, personal trainers, name a few other groups. It could still all be relevant for them. However, the difference is I'm saying, hey, I'm doing it with coaches transitioning to a full-time business. So that's where that value comes in. And the more you can niche down and get that message down to that one message for that one audience where you're helping them with an outcome, that's where the value comes. And that's going to allow people, that's going to allow you to earn more income and also charge more, because you're more of specialty. Anything that's specialty, that is specific experience, etc., or knowledge that's helping with something that's more specific is more valuable, means there's typically a higher associated cost with that. Just think of like a vehicle, for instance. The more specialized the vehicle, meaning the more it can do something really, really well. Like, what does a Ferrari do really, really well? Well, it just drives really fast. It handles really, really well. It's beautiful to look at. It sounds, you know what I'm saying? So it does a lot of things really, really well. So there's a higher value, there's a much higher associated cost with it than a Honda. What does a Honda do really well? It gets you to point A to point D, and it's reliable. That's like personal development, right? It's more general. So it's less valuable, therefore it just doesn't cost as much, And that's the thing about it. What makes a Mercedes more valuable than a Honda? Well, a lot of it can just be simply more brand image and association and branding, and then also materials and things they put into that. A brand is a look, an image, and a feel. But so as a coach, we really want to go down that avenue, because if we're talking about how to earn income as a coach today and being able to transition to full time, the reason I'm talking about this stuff and adding value to it is because in order to really break to that full-time mark and be able to earn a full-time income, whatever you deem that is you've got to be, knowing our coaching is one of our primary sources of income. Yes, we can have other sources of income, but if I look at, and this is from my experience and what I'm teaching, right? So since 2004, my primary income has always been my one-on-one coaching. I've had other income sources, in terms of product sales and classes and seminars and things like that along the way. But my number one income source has always been that one-on-one coaching. You've got to get your coaching, session rate up to, I'd say starting off between 122 a session to 150. I'm not saying don't go higher, absolutely if you can, but you've got to break that $100 session mark, and that 122 to 150 is that sweet spot, and that's based upon knowing, the reality of how many sessions you can handle on a weekly basis in terms of how many clients. I break that down in one of the calls I did. I think it was call number 11 on the Tuesday call. That's in my university on session structure and payment structure. So if you want to check that out in more detail. But so you got to get your rate up to that point. And the reason I say that in terms of getting your rate up to that point is so you can create, on a per session basis, having between 5 and 10 sessions a week, you can be earning, at least $50,000 a year, maybe $70,000 a year, and getting that base up with those clients. And then for most people, that's going to allow them to be able to transition out of their job once they're around that mark. And it also depends on, what they're financially responsible for, and maybe what they're currently earning and the lifestyle they currently have based on, their current job or whatever. So we've got to get our value up there. And that's why I'm a big advocate of, especially as you're starting off, is we've got to think about, our image and how we're presenting ourselves. And that's why I urge people, especially like what I do with that visibility challenge in my private Facebook group, is with the video, is, we're not having to shoot professional videos, but I want you to be able to get to the spot where you can shoot a really nice quality video with zero cost, because you can do that. And also, portray yourself in a manner where you can speak intelligently about your message, your language is there, your energy is there, your confidence is there, your belief is there. And how do we get there? It's repetition. It's getting in front of people. It's doing videos, and I'm pushing that with people because that's where you get that perception. Like, you can tell someone who's worth more money just because of the way they speak, by the way they develop, by their experience, by the way they carry themselves, their confidence around themselves and what they teach as well. And you deserve to get to that point, but you also need to if you want to create this transition. And in the beginning, the balance of it all is actually really cool, because we start off, we don't have an audience or very many people at all paying attention to us. And that's when I'll say it like this to be funny, but we suck more in the beginning because we're just figuring this whole thing out. But it's good that while we suck the most, there's the least people actually paying attention or no one paying attention to us. But as we start to develop and grow our audience, we do that as well. And so we grow along with them. So as you get to that place of confidence, et cetera, and you're worth more, there's going to be more people paying attention to it. And you're also going to command, a higher price for what you do because you believe in yourself and you've helped people and you have that belief in that as well. And you've got that background, that social proof and those testimonials, et cetera. But I always like to tell people, start off like that. One of my good clients on the phone, Shandi, we talked last week, and he started from the beginning going like, I'm the greatest. One of his mentors is Muhammad Ali, and he told me the story last week on the phone, and he's like, he came in and he was a nobody basically, and he came in and he's like, I'm the greatest fighter in the world. And forgive the story if I'm not completely accurate, but he's like, I want to start off like that, and I want to believe where I want to be is where I am now, and start with that expectation and live up to that and grow towards that. And that's where I want you to be. I'm not saying be fake, but you got to believe in yourself. You got to present yourself in that way. And if you're not quite there yet, it's that practicing over and over again, and that's going to build that value. And when I talk about this, I relate it all to the topic of how to earning income. Is if we're going to be doing that, that's going to allow us also more consistency in getting our message out there, because we're believing in it more and more. And then we're starting to get those people giving us the feedback. And so, that's that virtual model, like I said, that strong niche, and how that niche builds the value for what we do, and why we need to be a lot more specific to find those people. And with that model, you're going to have a lot more virtual products, downloadable products, things like that, in terms of extra income outside of coaching. If you're going to be doing more face-to-face, like I said, I'm working with some mentoring clients right now where they just, as much as they like some of the online stuff, it's just like they're not into that. They're maybe not that technical. They don't like all the social media stuff. They get overwhelmed with it. They get distracted. They love that face-to-face type of thing, and that's another very viable model. But that's a model if you're going to start earning income in that way. Again, it's a strong niche is always recommended. That one message for that one audience, but you can get away with, let's say, a more general message in, let's say, the real world, because you can start with circles. Like, that's where I start off. I mean, first 4 or 5 years, I probably had a niche, but I didn't really know it. And I was talking very general about goal setting and personal development stuff. But I was passionate about what I was speaking with, so I was speaking in front of realtors, in front of insurance agents and things like that. And I did a lot of work with, I ended up with doing real estate stuff, and because people liked what I was speaking about, so they invited me to do more, and I was getting clients, and they invited me to bigger events, and I started speaking with insurance companies. And then someone from State Farm, who knew me way back when I was doing fitness stuff, invited me to an event. My first paid event with State Farm. I get paid $2,500 to do the event. I was freaking out because I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but this person believed in me, and I went in there and it rocked, and that turned into 5 or 6 years working with State Farm, doing some really big, exciting stuff. So you can get away with, and what was I talking about? I don't even know what I was talking about, really, but I wasn't like, the guy for insurance agents, help your insurance agency grow. Like, that was the last thing I would have thought about doing, but that's where I was. And so you're gonna find where you go with that, so you can get away with a less specific niche. But again, it's getting in front of those people. And if you're gonna go that route where you're earning income, is, again, same thing, speaking in front of people, getting clients that way. So we build our audience, then we engage our audience, and we look for those clients through that avenue when the need and the timing comes up with those people. But that's also a model where, that's where I'm going to be pushing you down. Like, if I'm working with you as a mentoring client, I'm going to be pushing you down the live events, but then we've got to publish a book. That would be the number one thing I'd have you do, and or publishing some type of a physical product. If that's the avenue you're going down, I've done a book, and I've done 5 different physical audio courses. I've done an 8 CD course, a 4, a 2, and a 1 CD course. And when I would do events, even free paid events, I did events at a local, was it Gold Star Moms? I guess moms who've lost their child in a war. So sad, but I don't remember how someone invited me to it. But I spoke in front of these 20 moms some night, like a Wednesday night. And at the time, I only had my 1 8 CD audio course. And I did $2,000 in product sales for these 20 moms because they bought my course, for $150 each. You know what I mean? And that's why you've got to have those physical products, especially a book. If you do a book, that's a great way. It's not so much earning income from the sale of the book, but it's more of what the book's going to allow you to, the doors that it will open from you, and the clients you'll get from that through the speaking engagements. So that's another viable option, but that's how you're going to start to earn income, especially as a live presenter of events. And that's the thing about it is when you're doing events, it's nice to be able to have even a couple $100 to a couple $1,000, and way on up from there, depending on the audience and what you're selling, from those physical product sales. It's nice to have that, little extra cash that way. In addition to that, now having the potential to open up and have, X amount of clients, from that specific event. And so that's an avenue in terms of, how we're starting to earn income as more of that face-to-face model. So bottom line, let me recap, and then let's open it up. I want to have some good time for some questions and some dialogue. But bottom line is I always go back to that spot is just to give you more of the real stuff is you completely deserve to be patient with this process. And I'll say it's probably going to feel harder than it sounds. So, and if it ends up being easier, then fantastic. But it's going to feel harder than it sounds, and it's always going to feel longer, or it's going to take longer than you want it to take. And that's why it's so important that as you're looking to create this transition, is you've got to really look at, it's always going to go back to your finances and creating that financial plan, like I talked about in that call I referenced earlier in the Tuesday recordings. Is creating that financial plan to quit your job. Is you want to be able to set up the time and know your business hours, but have the patience. And the biggest piece about this whole thing is when it comes to building your audience, whether it's one person at a time, 10 at a time, as you get these people, the biggest thing once you've gotten people, like if you speak in front of people and you do an event and you get their contact information and you interact with them and maybe you get a client or two out of it, the biggest thing is with everybody else, including that person, is you've got to keep in front of them. You've got to stay in front of them. And that's through our email marketing and sharing emails with them. And then obviously through any other medium, like I chose to create a private Facebook group. I love that medium. I love what it allows me to do and how it allows me to get to know people and engage with people. And then also do some different things that I couldn't do otherwise with my group. So my number one way of staying in front of people is, email marketing, and then also my private Facebook group. For you, everyone's got to have email marketing. Email is still like one of, if not the number one ways to stay in front of people. And I know we all get a million emails from a million different people. By the way, go and change that. You need to start unsubscribing. And if it's me, then it's me. But you probably wouldn't be on this call if it's me. The point is that you've got to find the people that, one or two people that you're really engaged with. And everyone else, you got to kind of give them the boot for now. And if you like the people and don't want to forget about them, write their name down on a Word doc. So if the time comes, you can go back and revisit them. But you got to kind of get your focus in there. But email marketing, and then find one other avenue. And maybe you're doing podcasts, maybe you're doing YouTube, maybe you're doing another social platform. But even with the social platforms, it's like pick one social platform that where your demographic, again, that's another reason why you need to really identify them the best you can, is where do they primarily hang out on. I chose Facebook, not because, I like Facebook or I know Facebook or whatever. It's because of my ideal client of a coach who's looking to transition to a full-time coach. Facebook was a great platform for that, and with the groups they have, that's why I chose that. I could be on another platform because they're there as well, but that was more that universal for the age demographic, especially, and what they're going for, that I chose to that worked for me. That's why you gotta choose what works for you as well in terms of those platforms.